The longer you wait to solve your problems, the more challenging and the more difficult they're going to be. This is why sometimes you feel stuck and stagnant when honestly you just need a solution. Welcome or welcome back. It's your favorite mental health specialist, Ty Guidance, and that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. Speaking from experience, what has helped me along my healing journey was to realize that we're always going to go through things in life. Some problems are going to be minute, some problems are going to take days, some problems are going to take weeks, years. It's not what we're going through, it's how we react and respond and how it affects us psychologically, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, and howeverly. But you guys know, as your favorite mental health specialist, your health is wealth, meaning emotionally, if you're unstable, mentally, you're going to be unstable. You're going to suffer with the PTSD, OCD, ADD, ADHD, be depressed, have anxiety, be overwhelmed, and that's not what we want to do. Now, depending on when you see this video, it could be the New Year's, so happy New Year's, or if you're watching it in the moment right now, it's December 30th. There is one more day left in the year of 2024. And with that being said, it's no reason to continue the same cycles and the same lessons if you are able to learn from them. Until you realize why you're going through certain things, and until you are honest and vulnerable and you honestly take some time to handle your problems, to face your fears, you will continue to be in this cycle. You will allow projections from people, places, and things who are not compatible with you, who are not for you, to block you, and you'll mentally feel like you're trapped. If you feel like you're trapped, if you feel like you're not able to get out of your situation, you need to ask yourself, how did you get here? So in this video, we're going to go over recommendations step by steps in order for you to move forward. The first thing you need to do is ask yourself, what's wrong? It's easier said than done, only because people are not learning to be vulnerable. When you see these videos on YouTube, on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, you have to make a decision. You have to be very intentional. In order for you to heal, you have to want to heal. So if you don't have any desires, take what resonates and leave the rest. You have to realize that the longer you sit still about the trauma you've been experiencing since childhood or early years, or even the beginning of this year, the more you're going to feel paranoid, the more you're going to feel disconnected, the more you're going to disassociate. You have to understand where you are right now. So it's normal for you to not be emotionally stable. It could be normal and common, especially if you were not shown that. You have to realize that just because maybe you grew up in a dysfunctional household, or maybe you were installed chaos and corruption and confusion, maybe you went through abuse psychologically, mentally, physically, emotionally, that you no longer want that to be a part of your reality. So the first thing you need to ask yourself is, how do you feel? In order for you to solve your problems, you need to know what's wrong. And the second thing that you need to do is express that. Like, you can no longer suppress how you feel. So if you've been going through trials and tribulations since early age, you need to talk about exactly what you saw. You need to talk about exactly what you witnessed. You need to talk about what you were exposed to, and you need to confront the feeling that you're feeling. It is normal to feel sad. It is normal to feel angry, and it's normal to be confused and unaware. Once you are able to identify the emotions that you're feeling, the next thing you have to do is allow them to be what they were. So if you were beaten, if you were abused, if you were bullied, if you were touched on, if you were in poverty, if you just have this like mindset and it's been like that your entire life, you need to be mad. You need to be angry. You need to be sad. You need to isolate. You need to be in a season of rest. You just need to figure out who you are. Once you know who you are, once you identify the emotions that you no longer want to feel, once you talk about what it is that you experience, you then can come up with the solutions. But until you until you sit with yourself, you're not going to be able to handle your problems. So for example, speaking from experience, when I was 20 years old, you guys, I got fired for the first time ever and the only time ever in my life. I was a finance representative, and back in the day when I was 20 years old, I was making a lot of money, and financially I was taking care of myself. I didn't have both of my parents to pour into me because the way that I was raised. My first job was at 17. So for the 3 years, I've been working a 9 to 5. It wasn't until that moment that I got fired. And at that time, I thought it was the end of the world because I've never experienced being fired. And I've always been financially stable up until that point based off of how I was raised and financing myself as a young adult. And in that moment, I thought it was the end of the world. I thought I was depressed. I thought I was so sad. I just thought all these things because I was unaware. And at the time, I was not able to immediately talk about how I felt. So what I did was I just stopped investing into myself. Like when I got fired, what I had to do was take some time to rest, figure out if I wanted to apply for a new job or figure out if I wanted to become an entrepreneur. And that's what I ended up doing a year later. But if you are not aware, you think it's the end of the world. Just because you get fired doesn't mean that you can't get a new job or that you can't become an entrepreneur. But when you go through things in life, like I said, it's not the event that affects us, it's how we react and respond. 7 years later, 8 years later, I have been an entrepreneur. I have been able to take care of myself and live the life that I want, and I'm continuing to grow and see the fruits of my labor. So you have to realize that things are going to happen to us in life. It's not this situation. Like, don't be so bent on the adversity and the trials and tribulations that you miss the lesson, because it's reasons why certain things happen to us. I personally was fired because I was not meant to work a 9 to 5. I was not meant to have that type of lifestyle. Now, of course, I'm not telling you to get fired and to not work or to just live off other people. What I'm saying to you is that if you know that all you have is yourself financially, you have to be practical. In order for you to solve problems, you have to learn how to be practical. At that time, because I did not have any other financial assistance, I had to be realistic about what I was going to do. And I've experienced a lot of other things. The amount of trauma, the amount of trials and tribulations, speaking from experience, I've just realized is how we choose to handle these situations and no longer to be in them. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that things are going to be out of your control, but it's just like it's a pattern. If you really reflect the past couple of years as you grow older, as you live, as you gain discernment and wisdom, you realize why certain events led up to where you are right now. And that's okay. You have to not be ashamed. You have to not be afraid. Like when I got fired, I wasn't embarrassed. If anything, I was upset because I did not grow up in poverty. I didn't grow up in poverty mentally, physically, financially. That wasn't my life. So that's why, to me at that time, it really hurt me. It really hurt my feelings. And this may sound like first worldly problems, but it doesn't matter what the situation is, especially if you're not used to certain things and people judging you and talking about what you would have done or what they could have done. It doesn't matter. It's not until sometimes we have to go through things ourselves and we realize how it affects us. So regardless of what you are going through or what you're experiencing, you have to learn how to handle your situations immediately. The longer you wait to solve your problems, the more difficult and more challenging it's going to be. But for every problem, there is a solution. Like, nothing is going to last forever. Recently on TikTok, I made a video talking about shifts. You're constantly going to shift. You're constantly going to grow, because that's the purpose of life, is the living. Once we are no longer living, we will not be here anymore. And that's what you have to realize. Your final destination is ascension. And as you're on this path, you just have to learn that it's okay to go through things. It's okay if maybe you didn't really appreciate them in the moment. Maybe it hurt your feelings. Maybe it affected you physically, financially, emotionally, spiritually, howeverly. But you don't have to stay there. You're going to go through things in life. The goal is to realize why you're going through the things in life, being vulnerable, allowing yourself to feel how you felt. Like when I was fired, I felt so devastated, you guys. Like I was just like, oh my God. Like I would just cry because I was broke. Like I would cry because I was broke. Now looking at it is just like, to me, because like I said, I'm aware, I've elevated, I ascended, and I am someone who understands what it's like to have money and not to have it. It's not the end all be all, but you have to realize that it's lessons that we're going through. And of course, it takes wisdom, it takes years and experiences. I'm not telling you guys to not have a job, because people are going to interpret and internalize and process information how they need to. But for those of you who are going to get it, you're going to get it. But you have to learn how to solve your problems. Like if I didn't realize, and when you learn to solve your problems, so for that example, if you ever been fired before, or if you ever been broke, or you ever been in poverty, a lot of people have been broke before. There are a lot of people who are still broke, and being broke is not always financially. Being broke, honestly, is intuitively, it's internally, it's psychologically, it's mentally, but If you are not all of those things, if you're not mentally stable, you're going to think physically because you don't have money that you can't make money, or that there aren't ways for you to fix your situation. And you have to realize that, of course, speaking from experience, it's going to take time. I had to take time to figure out if I wanted to go back to work, because I've had so many jobs within those 3 years, or if I wanted to invest into myself. And regardless if you work a 9 to 5 or you're an entrepreneur, because there's this misconception, you still have to work. You still have to show up. And it doesn't matter, what your label or title is, you're still a person at the end of the day. So when we're going through things, we have to realize, what do we have control over? So an example of how you would figure out coming up with solutions for that, or whatever your situation is, what could you do? So in that moment, like I said, it took me maybe I got fired around, I think March. So within 4 or 5 months, immediately I was just like, okay, yeah, this is not gonna work. Within the 4 to 5 months, the first month I took to myself, because I was just like, at the time I was just so devastated. I was like, oh my God. And I'm not enabling your experiences. Once again, it just is from experience, but it's just like, you gotta keep moving. Just because things happen to us, you're not meant to be attached to anything. And that's going to be the whole purpose of 2025, is letting go of the attachments. Because once you let go of your attachment of your job, your finances, all the worldly stuff, if you are intuitive like you say you are, it doesn't hold any value unless you prioritize it. So the first month I had to rest. Within the next 2-3 months, I was just like, this is not going to work. And then within August, the summertime of what's before August? July, August, I was coming up with solutions. By the rest of the year, I had things and I was able to move on, and I had to move forward. And like I said, that was maybe 7 years ago. Now, a lot is going to happen within that time up until now, but it's just we cannot allow our problems to be bigger than what they are. So it's really important to come up with solutions, figure out, asking yourself, what could you do? Are you going to rest, or are you going to try to find a job? Are you going to ask connections? This is why it's important to treat people right. So therefore you have people that you can network with, and you can ask people for help, and making sure that you have a good community around you, because when you don't, you're going to have to figure things out by yourself. And that's what I did. And me personally, that's another reason why I make these videos, is because I've been solving a lot of my problems by myself. And if you don't have the resources, if you don't have the support, you have no choice. Now, if you have the resources, if you have a mom and dad, if you have friends and families, and you're able to have people to help you, don't take them advantage. Don't take them for granted. But you have to just ask yourself, what could you do? Could you go to work? Could you ask for help? Could you, go on Craigslist or Indeed or I don't know the websites for jobs, because I haven't worked for anybody in a long time, but going to the library, are you willing to make the necessary changes, as well as asking people, to cut their grass, to do their hair? Or are you going to start a business? Are you going to start a YouTube channel? Are you going to become a content creator? You have to be able to solve problems in life, because you're always going to go through things. And therefore, when you're going through these things, you're not so complacent about being stuck and stagnant. That's like if you left on time early to work and there's traffic or there's an accident, it's nothing more that you could do. We have to learn how to be patient, but most importantly, it's no reason to have the problems that we're dealing with deal with our everyday life in the next day. So if you have questions, comments, and concerns, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. Thank you for watching it all the way to the end. Turn on your post notifications and make sure you're subscribed, because if you're not subscribed, what are you doing? And make sure you follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. All the information will be down in the description box below. And if you want a service and a session, head to my website at tigerhoneySeptember.com and book your appointment. You can also vote on my Instagram and on TikTok in the stories, where I will be posting a poll about questions, comments, and concerns, and topics you want me to address, or let me know in the comment section here in YouTube, as well as the community section. But the longer you wait to solve your problems, the more difficult it's going to be. And it's not that. It doesn't have to be like that. Okay? Love you. Bye.